Did you know that Santa Claus, St. Nicholas himself, once had a dedicated character sheet and module for D&D 3rd edition? I know, right? Wild, that would never happen nowadays, especially because Wizards of the Coast has been really adamant about being as inclusive as humanly possible in all of their games as of late. But back then, they were a lot less concerned about how their content might stir some controversy. Hey, at least they kept it festive. I mean, they released it for free. We'll probably never see that happen again. And for years, running a holiday-themed one-shot around the holidays has been a very common trope amongst most gaming groups, at least the ones I've been a part of. I mean, just yesterday, I ran Last Christmas by Janek Siliki. I hope I'm pronouncing their name right, I'm probably not. Which is a fantastic 5e one-shot for the holidays that you can run with your party. And my group loved it. And yes, it had Christmas in the title. It wasn't trying to self-censor itself. Yet, and you might have caught me doing this just now, when people run these sessions, they tend to self-censor themselves, renaming them to things like the party that stole Critmas. And even I fell victim to this. And I was convinced that the module was called Last Critmas. It wasn't until I was writing this script that I sat down, read the title, and realized I was wrong. And that's despite the fact that none of my players are impacted by the lack of inclusivity. So for us, it doesn't really matter if we censor things or not. We're all just going to take it in good jest. But that doesn't apply to everyone. And this got me thinking. The trend of self-censoring these holiday-themed modules is relatively new. The reasons for it are easy to spot, but the how and why are a little bit more obfuscated. And to get to the answer of this, it lies in the broader spectrum of RPGs. You know, these changes don't happen in a vacuum. Back in the mid-2010s, the player base started to diversify a ton, thanks to new platforms like Twitter and YouTube, and new games like Pathfinder sort of breaking into the space. And meanwhile, actually innovative games like Apocalypse World or Monster Hearts introduced mechanics and storytelling that centered on self-identity, challenging the traditional combat-driven role that games like D&D held. This cultural cross-pollination not only made role-playing games more inclusive, but also nudged dungeon masters to rethink themes, holiday games included. So with this broader context in mind, I believe that Critical Role played a major role in helping people to adopt this trend. I mean, inclusivity is something they've championed since the very early days of Campaign 1. Even the term Critmas was used way back in like episode 10 or 11, back when Orion Akaba was still on the cast. And that's a whole other horror story I'm gonna have to cover one day. But here's the funny part. Critmas started as a joke. Winter's Crest is what Critical Role calls their in-game holiday event. However, fans began sending them so many gifts to open that they had to kind of do something about it. And this led to them coining the term Critmas, which originally was going to be a segment that they ran monthly, but they very quickly realized this was quite impossible to maintain. And so instead, Critmas actually just became one of their holiday events, something that they started doing annually, and thus set the precedent for reframing traditional holiday names into something a bit more palatable for modern TTRPG audiences that are just full of all sorts of people from all walks of life. And speaking of Critmas, at the time of this recording, Critical Role presents a Daggerheart Critmas story live has yet to air. Yet I, along with Jacob Crow and a mutual friend, were all there in attendance for it. And let me just say, with a bit of slight spoilers, it was absolutely chaotic and a blast to be a part of. And so once it's out, definitely give it a watch. It's a lot of fun, and I think even non-TTRPG players would probably enjoy watching it. So definitely set aside some time to watch it once it's out. And just to clarify, this is not an ad. We were literally just there in the audience, didn't capture a photo of us, but maybe we'll be visible in the crowd once it's out. Who knows? We're like off to the right side of the screen, like 4 or 5 rows in. Maybe you'll spot us. Anyhow, inclusivity goes far beyond just the terminology. It's about creating an environment that makes everyone at the table feel welcome to be at that table, which is something that Critical Role simply exemplifies in doing through their storytelling and diverse cast of characters. And if you can, go back and look at D&D tables 10 years ago, and then compare them to now. It's a completely different ballpark. Modern tables attract a much wider array of people than they did in the past, from introverts to extroverts, to the LGBTQ+ community, to people of various faiths and racial ethnicities. everyone's represented in some way or another. It's a beautiful evolution that deserves to be as protected as it is celebrated. Of course, Critical Role isn't the sole reason for this shift. D&D 5th edition has done a lot, both to encourage collaboration as well as showcase characters with diverse skin colors, different body types, and identities. Stranger Things alone brought D&D into the mainstream culture, and then back in 2020, Black Lives Matter had a profound impact on gaming as a whole. However, in terms of single contributors, Critical Role's visibility and commitment to inclusivity have made them a force in the industry. You know, back when I started writing this script, I thought I was going to be writing something very simple about inclusivity and how it's been adopted into, the modern holiday one-shots stuff in tabletop RPGs. But as I dug deeper, I found myself reflecting and seeing just how much the gaming community as a whole has changed, not just from a holiday perspective, but across the board. Again, comparing to 10 years ago, the public's perception of what D&D is actually aligns pretty well to what it is nowadays. It's amazing to see how far we've come in such a short amount of time. Now, does this mean you need to stop using Christmas and other specific holiday-related terms in your one-shots? No, of course not. It's your game, and your group's comfort level is going to dictate and drive how that game evolves. If your group enjoys the Christian symbolism and traditional holiday themes around that religion, lean into them. Why not? That's what they want. I mean, even for the one-shot I ran, my party's chaoticness of them led them to some sort of final showdown versus Santa and a bunch of his elves, and they were playing as like the Grinch and a few other people from like famous villain stories. It was a lot of fun. And if you want to broaden your table's appeal, just get creative. Consider giving your adventure a fresh twist. That's the beauty of D&D and other tabletop role-playing games. It's the endless flexibility of it. Now, if you are thinking about running a holiday-themed adventure for your party, here's a few tips. First, make sure you know your group's preference. Are they into whimsical or lighthearted stories, or do they prefer a more dark, subversive twist to them? And use that to tailor your tone accordingly. Second, keep it accessible. Holidays are a busy time, so try to wrap it up after about 3 to 4 hours. Finally, add some interactive holiday-themed mechanics. For example, a stocking that they can pull candy out of that heals them when eaten in real life, which is exactly what I did for my game. Or perhaps you give them some free dice to play with. Or perhaps, as a reward for their adventure, they get to carry over some item into their real game, or they get something in real life. Perhaps this is how you go about giving them their presents. That's a pro tip for you. But still, keep the session engaging and inclusive to their preferences. You don't want to go outside your boundaries. In the end, whether you're running The Last Christmas or The Last Critmas or any other holiday spin you can think of, the goal is the same. Have fun, share laughs, and maybe save the world while you're at it. One festive adventure at a time. So with that, I wish you all a very happy holidays. I realize my release schedule is kind of inconsistent at the moment, something I'm still working on, but I assure you more content is in the pipeline. I have a very, very long Excel sheet full of ideas, and I'm just going through them and finding what I think you all might be interested in. Now, without trying to sound too cringe, if you'd like to get me a Critmas present, all you got to do is subscribe if you aren't already, hit the bell icon to be notified of my future videos, comments, all that stuff. Interact on the video, that would mean a ton to me. And with that, while you wait for my next videos, here's a few related ones that YouTube thinks you might like.